Everybody, we are back. It is Tape Don't Lie. It is your favorite Raiders podcast, favorite Raiders channel, favorite Raiders everything. We are back. You guys already know what to do. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe. Hit the like button if you like it. Hit the dislike button if you don't like it. Leave a comment if you like it. Leave a comment if you don't like it. Also, follow us on Twitter at the Mark John NFL for me, at BD Williams 18 for BD. Of course, BD's not here right now, but also check us out Panda Supplements.com, pandasubs.com, discount code TDL for 35% off. Get your protein, get all your stuff that you need. You know what I'm saying? To look good for your, going home for the holidays or whatever. So check that out. And today we got a special guest because we're playing the Houston Texans this week. Hopefully get a bounce back game for the Raiders. They're 1-4. We get another team that's only has one win too, and which is the Houston Texans. And we got my man DJ, who writes for ESPN now. He's big time now. He's writing for ESPN, covering the Houston Texans. So how you doing, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Right now, I'm actually just trying to book my hotel in Vegas. The one I had booked like last month got canceled, so I don't know what to do, but I'll be all right.
Man, yeah, you get to visit Sean for a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, while you're out there, man, a little bit, maybe. Up in that press box, checking it out. So you used to cover the New York Jets, so
right.
You moved over to the Houston Texans. Can you talk about a little bit of the difference of those beats per se?
Oh man, so like with the Jets beat, how do I put this? So on the Jets beat, the majority of people in the press box can't get their credentials, not press box, but like they go to practice and stuff like that. They can't get their credentials revoked because like a lot of them are at like whether it's the New York Post or ESPN or the Athletic or the Ledger or the Record, things like that. So like a lot of them are at newspapers, so like they're credited by the NFL. So a lot of people on the Texans beat are credited by they get their credentials from the Texans. Okay. So like what I've come to realize is that some have to be a lot more strategic with their questions if they want to be critical, because if they're a little bit too critical or a little bit too, pushy in a negative direction, they can potentially get their credential revoked. So I think that's one of the more big differences in that, like, New York be like, they just could never ever take our credentials. So like, unless we did something crazy, they couldn't take it. So they were kind of stuck with us. Versus with the Texans, granted, like I haven't seen the Texans ever pull anybody's credential, but I've heard from like the previous PR staff that has happened. Okay. So I think that's like the biggest difference in terms of like the actual beat. Now the teams, I think one team is at the second year of a rebuild, where one team is in year one of their rebuild. You feel me? So
yeah, going from rebuild to rebuild. But that makes sense, though, because, I mean, New York, they do ask some crazy questions. So that makes complete sense because I can't ask those questions with Josh McDaniels either. So, you get in there, it gets really, really tight. But that makes sense. New York, they be asking crazy questions. So that makes sense. I never even thought about that. You know what I'm saying? So, but now you're in Houston. You're the Houston Texans. I know it's probably, the Jets are actually winning now. You left. The Jets are starting to win. And now you're with Houston, and they look like the Jets from last year, but you explained it. But the rebuild, they got a quarterback, Davis Mills. So Davis Mills, he's in his second year. I'll tell you the truth. I was surprised they went into the year with Davis Mills only after watching him on film over the summer. I was a little shocked by that. I didn't think Jimmy G was out there. Maybe they could have traded for him. It's kind of the same system from the Patriots a little bit. So give your thoughts on Davis Mills a little bit and his growth and his season so far.
I think that last year down the stretch, I think his last 9 starts, he had like 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. The Pats were like 96. He was playing to the naked eye very well. The kind of stats he was playing well. But people are talking about the league mentioned that some of those stats were kind of garbage time stats. So obviously, that when a team is up big, they just basically prevent, keep everything in front, and quarterbacks can pick up a lot of yards that way, pick up some stats in that aspect. At the end of the day, like respect to whoever the quarterback's in that situation, you still got to put up those, you can still put up those numbers, you can still put up those numbers. But I think that this year, some people feel like he hasn't progressed, but I think I think he has. It's just that now teams, they're in a lot of these games, so like because the defense is playing really well. So they're in a lot of these games. So the defense is still coming after him. You know what I'm saying? But like they're not in pre-direct defense. Granted, there's some games last year, like against the Chargers or against the Patriots, where he lit them up. But in this situation, you know, these defenses aren't quote unquote going into prevent and allowing for those quote unquote garbage yard stats. Now, all his stats, garbage yard stats, no, but some of them were that help inflate those numbers. You know what I'm saying? So I think this year, I think he has gotten better. The numbers may not say that. I think he's gotten better with decision making in terms of and protecting the ball. He just hasn't been able to create those explosive plays that you would like. All that isn't on him. You know, sometimes I think that Pep could do a better job of creating, you know, some of those explosive plays. But there are times where, you know, he may miss a guy when the opportunity is there. Like there was a few misses against the Chargers. There was a couple of misses for like big explosive plays against the Colts. Like I remember, like they ran like a trick play, flea flicker, against the Colts, and like to Brandon Cooks, and Davis kind of underthrew Brandon, which caused them to, the Colts to tackle Brandon instead of him being able to score a touchdown. Because if you throw it, put some air on it, Brandon runs under it, it's touchdown, and instead of them ending up in a tie. Those little things now, you know, they just win that game outright because the lead would have just been too big because they ended up having to settle for a field goal instead of a touchdown. So, man, I think that, again, decision-making has been better. I think that his processing has picked up a little bit. My only issue is when the pocket gets a little muddy, he could tend to struggle within that in terms of just being able to move within the pocket and create those throwing lanes to get the ball where he needs to go to, by still being able to put the velocity that's required on it, or being able to throw with that same touch and accuracy even when the pocket's muddy. He had a couple of misses like that against the Chargers, and then against the Jags. I mean, that was he more managed that game because Damien Pierce was running really well, but I think Davis played well in that game. You know, his numbers might not say that, but I think he played well. He managed the game correctly, and on top of that, he made key throws. Like I cannot take that away from him. Like he made a good amount of key throws in that game to help them get the win, and allow Damien to keep going.
Yeah. So, with the passing game overall, I mean, you talk about Brandon Cooks a little bit. You talk about some of the other receivers that are out there, and then maybe the offensive line a little bit. I know Larry Tunsil is still out there playing well.
So I would say that their offensive line is low-key good, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. I think that you got Tunsil at left tackle. He's playing at a very, very high level. I think he's only allowed like 4 pressures the entire season. Wow. And then you have Titus Howard, who's also playing well. I think he's only allowed like maybe 13 pressure. I got to double check, but I tweeted it out. It's not a high number, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They both combined to only allow 1 sack. You got Kenyon Green at left guard, who's still, progressing in the from a pass blocking standpoint, but he's really good in the run game. Then you have AJ Cann at right guard. And then, you had Justin Britt, who ended up, I mean, I won't say he's gone AWOL, that's not the right word, but he stepped away for personal reasons. And then a dude named Scott stepped in at center. And he's been playing, the O-line overall has played good. And then you go to, the weaponry. It could be a little bit better, but it's not bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's solid. It's kind of I wouldn't say it's comparable to the Raiders from last year, but I think it's, in that same ilk, where you have that one guy and you have other people playing off of that one guy. But, other guys still trying to prove himself. Nico Collins is progressing really well. Now he's a team leader in receiving yards. Nico Collins, 6'4", big body receiver who has a little bit of twitchiness to get in and out of his breaks. But he reminds me a little bit of Mike Williams in the sense that he's a big body guy that can go up and get the football, 50-50 contest type ordeals. And then tight ends room. It's weird, man. The tight end spot, they got Brevin Jordan, who's dealing with injury. Now he's coming back this week. You got OJ Howard, who has talent, but he hasn't been able to put it together. Then you have Jordan Akins, who's recently kind of emerged a little bit. I think he scored a couple of touchdowns recently. So could they add more to their receiving room and weapon room? Of course, but those guys are solid. That's a solid group. 'Cause I always say that, what I've noticed throughout the year based off the defense, the weapons, the running game, O-line, that if you had, let's say, like a very good quarterback, the Texans are probably like 4-1, maybe 3-2. If you had like a very good quarterback, because every game has been down to the wire where it's like, okay, we just need our quarterback to make a play, or we just need one play to be made, whether it's defensively or offensively. Chargers game, no matter who the quarterback was, like unless you just got him to shoot out, like unless it's like Mahomes or Josh Allen or whatever, because the defense didn't play well. But overall, though, man, like they're not that far off. That's why their plus minus it's only minus 13, which is like mid in the NFL. Versus like bad teams like it's usually like minus 50, but they're only like minus 13 and they're 1-3-1.
Yeah. I mean, the Raiders the same way. I think the Raiders are less than that, man, like -6, and they're 1-4. So, yeah, it can go either way. It's the NFL. I mean, you gotta win those close games. I mean, you got those teams, and there's some games like 23-20. One game was a tie. It can go either way, and then your difference from 1-4 and 4-1. So that's
exactly.
All right, Damien Pierce. He's everybody watch Tape to Lie knows I'm a huge Damien Pierce fan.
Right.
I wanted the Raiders to draft him. That was my man. I was hoping the Raiders would draft up, and then the Texans, they came up and got him. Talk about him. I know he's basically having a breakout season so far. So talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, man. Damien Pierce is pretty good. Through the first few weeks, he's played like one of the best running backs in the league, not like one of the best rookies. After week 5. No, after week 4, because I think beat the Jaguars. He was third, fourth in the NFL rushing. Josh Jacobs ended up, I think, passing him, and so did Miles Sanders. But he has the vision, power, patience, quickness, and he has a little bit of burns. I mean, you saw against the Chargers, he was able to run for 75 yards. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's really good at setting up his blocks. Like I remember this one play against the Jaguars where there wasn't really much there. He was going up the A gap, and it was stuffed. And then he just waited, and then like he saw the corner of his peripheral. Okay, there goes a cutback lane. Boom, exploded right through it. There's a lot of runs where it looks like it's dead, and he's able to make something happen. So I think that's probably his best skill is he doesn't usually let the first person take him down. He can make something out of nothing as long as you don't have like 5 guys running at him in the backfield or whatever. But he's a very, very good running back, man. Like I've been really impressed with him. I mean, this offense is gonna run through Pierce. Levy said today, straight up, like, we're gonna try to get him 20 carries a game. So that's the approach, man. So I mean, if you draft Damien Pierce in your fantasy league, you're good. You're set.
Yeah. That's what I did. I was very excited about that when I saw him there. But that's the Raiders. They have to focus on stopping him because I think that's the big focus for them is to control him, and then make Davis Mills beat them. And I think it's probably their game plan is to make Davis Mills beat them himself. Right. So we'll see how that goes, especially with a little familiarity with the systems they have over there. So the defense side of the ball, though, is where the Texans are at. So one place we don't talk about much with the Texans, it's here the secondary all the time, is their pass rush. So you can talk about their pass rush a little bit and how they're getting after the passer.
Yeah, their pass rush, I won't use the word inconsistent, but it's above average for sure. I know prior to the bye they were top 10 in sacks. And I think that's a combination of coverage. It's like a sliding scale, coverage and rush. They go hand in hand. I know we kind of get enamored with like, you just get a front four that can get after the quarterback, you'll be good. Like, nah, you still need dudes on the back end that can, cover.
For sure.
People forget like, okay, if you don't have anybody that can cover, okay, you got a good pass rush. We can just scheme around that and get guys over.
Exactly.
So, they're obviously they have Bernard who missed the last game with an ankle injury. He had like 1.5 sacks. You have Rasheem Green who had like a couple sacks, and you have Jerry Hughes for whatever reason they able to tap into the fountain of youth. I think last year he had 2 sacks. This year he has 4.
Oh wow!
5 weeks into the season. So I think their pass rush has been good. Now that they're getting Mario Addison back this week, and you're gonna get Bernard back, they're gonna be able to. Whenever there's an obvious passing down, be able to use those 4 guys, whether it's Mario Addison, Rasheem Green on the interior, then you had Jerry Hughes and Bernard come off the edge. So I think the pass rush is above average for sure. It's a good. I think it's a good unit. If you look at some of the raw numbers, like rushing and whatnot, like rushing yards per game, you may get kind of skewed. Oh, no, their D-line ain't really that good. But no, I think it's above average. It's a good unit. I think that a lot of their rush issues or run stopping issues is more about people just not being in their appropriate gaps versus, just people getting blown off the line of scrimmage. You feel me? So
yeah. Okay. And they play a lot of cover 2, right?
I think they need the league in cover 2.
Right. Tampa 2, it's old school. But it's more of an updated cover 2 from what I've seen. It's not usual, just the drop back cover 2 that they usually do. I know there's still some man matching in there. So you talk about the young corners they got over there and the young safeties. Because Jalen Petre, and we love you some Stingley Jr. So
yeah, man. Now that I'm actually writing a story on that group overall, man. Like they've been one of the better pass defenses in the entire NFL. Like just looking at some of the advanced stats, because again, like their overall raw count status, I think a lot like 230 something yards per game, which is like 23rd in the NFL. Might be a little higher, but like the stats that actually matter, like quarterback completion percentage is 57. That's top 5 in the NFL. Interceptions, that's top 10 in the NFL. Because they got 6. They hold quarterbacks at a passer rate of 73, top 5 in the NFL. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like each player that when they're targeted by a quarterback, they all have a passer rate of under 90. Like I think Steven Nelson has like 86, but that's because he gave a touchdown against Michael Pittman in week 1. But ever since then, like he hasn't given up a touchdown. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who else? Obviously Petrie caught 2 interceptions against Justin Fields. Jonathan Owens is rock solid, man. Like he's always where he's supposed to be, whether in pass coverage or in the run game. Yeah. And obviously, if anybody follows me on Twitter, they know I'm a big Stingley fan.
Yeah.
And, he's been everything is advertised. I wish they put him more in man situations, just put him in press.
Yeah.
And, let him go to work. But that's just not what the scheme is. But he's still been able to execute it at a very good level. You know what I'm saying? Last time they played, he was able to catch an interception on Trevor Lawrence, where I think that he kind of bit on a play action in a cover 2 look, cover 2 play call, and if Trevor was rolling out, he was able to get back to his own and jump right in front of that pass.
Yeah.
He looks real. He's not getting the hype that like Tariq Woolen is getting or a Sauce Gardner is getting, but he's playing at a very, very high level. You know what I'm saying? 2 corners that I feel like aren't getting the love is him and Jack from the New England Patriots. They're both
Jones,
playing Jack Jones. They're both playing at a very good level. Mm-hmm. This whole quarterback class, to be honest, like there's been some gems in it. Rookie class. But yeah, man. And Desmond King. Desmond King got like 6 PBUs, an interception. You know what I'm saying? Like Desmond King he's playing good football, man. Like Desmond King, he might not be a household name, but he's a very good football player. Like he's smart, savvy. You know what I'm saying? He's in nickel. Like that's a very, very good football player, man. Like I think if you had to ask me who I think their best player in the secondary is, like the best football player, it's probably Desmond King, in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. The linebackers, because they're playing cover 2. Is that where teams are attacking them? Then they're attacking the linebackers, or attacking inside, or where do you feel like teams are attacking them through the pass game if they can? Because it sounds like they're struggling so much.
Yeah, so I think they try to attack in the middle of the field. Yeah, middle of the field, because that's where that little space is, right? Where like you can run some of those seam bending routes where you get into that middle of the field in between, behind the linebacker, but then in between those 2 safeties. They've been able, but they haven't been. The quarterbacks haven't been able to attack that side too often. It's been a lot of dink and dunk, where they'll drop back, see what the coverage is. They don't really like it. All right, let's check it down. You know what I'm saying? And then they let everybody rally. That's why like the overall passing number is fairly high, but that's why their red zone defense is like top 5 in the NFL. Because they want you to dink and dunk and march up the field because they believe that eventually you'll make a mistake. So. So I think they'll attack some linebackers. Sometimes, granted, like the only quarterback that's been really able to that had no issue with any of it was Justin Herbert. Because Justin Herbert he can put the ball in certain spots that some quarterbacks just, can't. You know what I'm saying? Justin Herbert's a little different, man. So man. Against the Jags, they went cover 2 the whole time. They went cover 2 they went too high on over almost 80% of the dropbacks, when cover 2 on 60% of the dropbacks, and they just told Trevor to fit in those windows. And sometimes he could, sometimes he couldn't, and then he threw it underneath, and they just came up rallying tackle. So That's basically what it's been, man. That's why I've been really impressed with their game plan is always sound, man. It's always sound. Like Lovey, I see why like Lovey's one of the best defensive coaches ever. Like he just understands how to come up with good game. Like I never came into it and think, oh man, they don't got a good game plan. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. Because I mean that's what I'm worried about. The cover 2. I know that's something that Derek Carr just throughout his career hasn't really done really well against. And this year they haven't played well against the cover 2 that much either. And that's what happens. You get to the dink and dunk stuff, and you can't play football. And then so they got to figure out ways to get Adams and those guys to football. But it's gonna be an interesting game. I think this game's gonna be a lot closer than people think. So. Especially Raiders fans. I know Raiders fans see the Texans and they're just like, they're expecting a blowout, but I'm not. So we'll see how it is. So any last thoughts? Anything you want to get out there?
Trying to think. I'm really intrigued to see just you guys. No. This is what I really want to see. I want to see the chess match between Lovey and Josh McDaniels because we know that Lovey likes to go to that too high look. Granted, like sometimes he'll disguise it or have somebody in the box. And then they'll bail out at the end. So I want to see what that chess match is going to be because Josh Jacobs, I looked it up yesterday, against a too high look, averages 6 yards per carry. So you want to try that. You want to we saw Josh Jacobs take over that Chiefs game. You know what I'm saying? Like he was really in control throughout that game. Obviously you guys in the trade were able to get the win, but like you could feel his impact, you know what I'm saying? So, like, you let him get going, it might be all she wrote, you know what I'm saying? So, I really want to see that chess match, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really intrigued by that because they haven't been able to stop the run that much. And some of that, just poor execution in terms of gap integrity from the linebacker core. Sometimes some D linemen, but for the most part, it's the linebacker core and not executing their gap assignments correctly, sometimes overshooting gaps, overrunning gaps, you know what I'm saying? So I'm really intrigued by that chess match of trying to make sure you don't leave your corners and your secondary in a bad position against Devontae Adams and company, but understanding that Josh Jacobs could run for $150 if you let him.
And that's been Josh McDaniels' game plan because that's how teams been playing. They've been playing too high. Somebody over Devontae Adams in his last 2 games. I mean, they put up 29 and 32, but playing through Josh Jacobs and forcing somebody to come down, which Adams had 140 yards against the Chiefs, and that's part of the reason is because he got those not too high looks. Right. All right, DJ, give him the Twitter handles. I'll get you out of here, man.
Just DJ Bien-Aime. Nothing too crazy. Just DJ Bien-Aime. Find me on Twitter, probably arguing with Jet fans about why Derek Stingley and Sauce those were really 2 good picks. Both teams are happy instead of Jet fans telling me that Sauce is so much better than Derek Stingley.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sure they couldn't wait to tell you that. They couldn't wait to say that. All right, man. I appreciate you coming on, giving everybody some information about the Texans. Like I said, guys, just hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter at @TheMarkSeanNFL. I'm out.